Welcome back to the Retro Horror Academy. My name is Daniel Richardson, and in this episode we are going to be talking about the year in horror 1925. It is a full moon out tonight, so, we got the extra atmosphere, which means nothing on a podcast, but hey, work with me here. So, like with every goddamn year in the 20s, I've noticed, there isn't really a whole lot of advancement or news in horror other than the movie we're ranking. So we'll get to that in a bit, I guess. But first, we're going to get to this episode's induction into the Horror Hall of Fame. Last episode. Yeah, it was last week. We introduced a new segment, the Horror Hall of Fame, where we'll be taking legends, icons of the horror genre who have helped shape the horror community that we have today, and we give them the proper spotlight and we induct them into the Horror Hall of Fame. And last week's inductee was George Melas. I apologize again if I am butchering that name, but George Melas was the director of the very first horror film, The House of the Devil, and so obviously he gets a spot in the Hall of Fame. And so, a couple of quick rules that I threw down last time. I'll probably just repeat it every time, just so I don't have people constantly asking these questions. One, we're looking at this from the perspective of the year we're inducting. So, like right now, we're covering 1925. So, obviously, nobody from the future. We're not throwing in John Carpenter or Wes Craven because they're not even born yet. And secondly, we're going to put people who would have been Hall of Fame worthy that year. Meaning, your Lon Chaneys, your Conrad Verdes, these guys are not getting in because they're currently working right now. They're killing it right now in the horror genre, especially Mr. Lon Chaney, which we'll talk about quite a bit tonight. So, yeah, it'd be ridiculous to put them in because they're currently working. No, we're looking for those people who are seasoned, who have contributed to the horror genre in insurmountable ways. So, with that all out of the way, let me introduce to you this week's induction into the Horror Hall of Fame. Mary Shelley. She was the author of Frankenstein, or the modern day Prometheus, full fucking title there. But no, flat out, let's just be realistic. And thing is, from us being from, even beyond 1925, we know that the biggest Frankenstein movie hasn't even come out yet. However, I think that, for its time, it was a huge landmark in Gothic horror. It's a very influential movie. In fact, they already done 3 versions of it at this point. We've only covered one on this show because, unfortunately, the other 2 have been lost to the, ravages, sands of time. So, we only have the one Edison version, but it's clear that, this story was a huge hit for its time and continues to be so today. And for that alone, Miss Shelley is definitely in the Horror Hall of Fame. So, she joined George Melas in our pantheon of horror icons, people who have contributed greatly to our little community here. So, congratulations, Mary Shelley. Unfortunately, I think she died before even 1925. I think she kicked it at the end of the 1800s. Maybe she made it to 1900s, but not far into that. So even then, she wouldn't have got to see, her award, But hey, it is what it is. So with that out of the way, we have 2 horror films from 1925 that we're going to review and rank for you. So let's get to it. At number 2, winner of our Silver Skull Award, The Monster. The Monster, you got this kind of, I don't want to say spineless, kind of a weak-willed individual who he works as a clerk. However, he decides to try to be an investigator, try to be a detective, And he decides, there's some weird stuff going on at that insane asylum, the abandoned insane asylum. Let's go check it out. And that's kind of the gist here. at this point, Lon Chaney has already been, a huge, star. Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Penalty, and he's poised for another huge hit this year as well. We haven't gotten to that. That will be our number one. For those who know their horror films from 1925, you already know what I'm talking about, but we'll get there. The Monster. However, this is kind of one of those odd things because The Monster does not have much of Lon Chaney starting off. Like, he's top billed. It's Lon Chaney in The Monster. And yet, we don't see him until, half hour plus into the film. This movie has been, cited for starting a couple of subgenres, which I'm going to call bullshit on one of them. They claim this is the first, dark house, old dark house subgenre, which, you always have these group of people show up at this old creepy house and horror/comedy ensues. And we've already saw that with One Exciting Night 3 years prior. So to say this one gets that nod, I'm going to call bullshit on. Now, granted, One Exciting Night had less horror in it, I guess, than The Monster, but it's not like this is much better anyway, so sorry. I'm giving the nod to One Exciting Night. However, this is the first time we dabble in the mad scientist, mad doctor subgenre, especially, a mad doctor who's using these, these abominations as his minions. And this is the first time we have seen that. So I guess for that alone, it deserves some kind of praise. It's getting Silver Skulls. So we'll give it that. I don't know what to say about this film. Review-wise, a lot of people, it was kind of in the middle of the road for a lot of people, with people, citing that the main thing was the fact that it's kind of a lack of Lon Chaney starting off, and that seemed to, get everybody going, about it. For me personally, and I guess I'll go into my review part of this, even when I watched it, I was a fan of, certain silent horror films, including the one that we're going to talk about next, but this, for whatever reason, just did not grab me at all. I think maybe because when I went into it, I was expecting it to be more out-and-out horror, and the fact that it kind of dabbles in comedy, it's just, I don't know, it feels really uneven, but more importantly, it's just dull. Like, seriously, it's not that long of a film, but it feels like double its runtime. I don't know. For me personally, this just was not the movie for me. But it seems to be somewhat popular. I mean, it has a 6.2 currently on IMDb, so it's got that going for it. That's still kind of middle of the road. But yeah, for me personally, I just did not like this film. It's lucky that there's only 2 films we can review from 1922, from 1925, because it wouldn't have gotten the Silver Skull any other way. So. But anyway, that's just my opinion. It's just my humble opinion and the opinion of the Horror Academy. So, the Retro Horror Academy. Make sure I don't get in trouble with the Horror Academy people. So, moving on now. The number 1 horror film from 1925. Winner of the Golden Skull Award. The Phantom of the Opera. Story about a horribly disfigured man who falls in love with a young starlet who is destined for, greatness. So, this movie, I believe the producer, and I'm sorry if I butcher his name as well, Carl Lemmer? I'm going to call him Lemur. I know for a fact that's not it, but we'll call him Lemur. Carl, he was in Paris at the time, and he bumped into, I'm blanking on this dude's name, Gaston Leroux, something Frenchy. And anyways, the guy who wrote the story for Phantom of the Opera. And once he read it, he knew he had to do it, so he got the rights immediately. And, of course, working at Universal and already having that working relationship with Lon Chaney, boom, they were in business. And, Lon Chaney jumped aboard to play the Phantom. This movie, and I didn't realize any of this backstory at all, this movie had a really bad, troubled production starting off. The big thing was, I guess, the director kind of rubbed everybody the wrong way, and I guess they all had more of a grander vision of this film, and he was just kind of just roll the camera, let's just get this shit in the can and move on. And so the fact that, like, he's the only one who's kind of going at attacking it from this point of view, and everybody else is wanting to make a great film. Yeah, it got to a point where I guess at one point he's trying to direct Lon Chaney, and Chaney just told him to go to hell, and Lon Chaney just did his own thing. We heard the same thing on The Hunchback of Notre Dame. However, on that movie, it felt like it was more agreed upon that Lon Chaney would direct himself, because he was originally slated to be director, and then he stepped down so he can focus on the acting. But here, that's not the case at all. Chaney's just like, nope, I'll do what the fuck I want, and that's what he did. When they shot the first cut of the film, they had a different ending altogether, and when they premiered that ending, I guess they were just booed out of the auditorium, and I don't remember exactly what they said the ending was. Somehow she falls in love with the Phantom, and I don't know. He still ends up getting. I think he ends up like killing over, like she gives him a kiss and then he just dies in a chair. Did I read that right? I don't know. But either way, it was weak sauce. So, the studio pulled it back, reshot it. Well, thing is, the director, for whatever reason, just did not come back. Whether if he was fired or he quit, that has been a bit of debate on that. But either way, he just doesn't come back. And so they bring in this other guy to kind of step up, and they shoot. And they basically try to rescrap a lot of the stuff he shot. So this other guy, throws in his scenes. They give it a different ending, closer to the ending we got, but, still, she falls in love with the Phantom, gives him a kiss, and then, he gets taken out by the mob. However, this also was considered just horrible, mainly due to the fact that it was just a lot of, I guess, drama and talky scenes and just subplots upon subplots, and everybody's like, what the fuck is this? And so they had to yank it back a second time and cut together a third cut of the film. This time, they would go back and take much more footage from the original cut. So I guess, the original director, and I'm blanking on his name, Justin Rowland, something like that. Oh, it's not Justin Rowland, that's Rick and Morty. I forget the guy's name. It was something like that, though. Anyways, they used a lot of his footage, but they kept the ending somewhat, or to build up to the ending from the other version, from the second version. However, I guess where they kind of decided to draw the line was, instead of making the Phantom sympathetic, he was just going to be a bastard till the end. So he's definitely played up more, even though there is some sympathetic, qualities in Chaney's performance and in, the final product. In the end, he's just batshit crazy, insane, which leads to, I think, my opinion, the best ending they could have possibly had, which I'll get to that later. So, anyways, but when it finally came down and that was released for the third time and the final time, like this is the legit, release of the film, it was much more love. Like people just, like, oh yeah, that's what we're talking about right there. Unfortunately, the first two cuts are not available. Apparently, they were lost in like whatever big fire happened at Universal. The vaults. So, some of the shit's now gone. There are still a few frames, I guess, that survives of these original endings, but for the most part, they're gone. All right, taking a drink. I don't edit this shit. I take the easiest approach here. One cut, one take. That's all you guys get. Anyways, so it comes out. It's a huge hit. The crazy thing is this thing would have multiple releases within the years. At one point, they experimented with color. They would use different color tints previously, and we've seen this, just with the movies we reviewed here at the Retro Horror Academy. You'd see blue tints to indicate nighttime, or sometimes you'd see even red, kind of a yellowish tint, stuff like that. However, this is the first time we actually get certain scenes, and the scene that they would color in would be, I believe, the ballroom scene, and then the Masquerade of Death scene where he's dressed up, as the Masquerade of Death, and you see the reds and everything like that. And this was all hand done on the actual film, so it takes a lot of like, holy shit there. They had a special guy come in to do the score, and I guess he was actually there at the premiere. And I mean, they did huge blowout for this premiere. Again, Universal struck gold with The Hunchback of Notre Dame and considered these more prestige pictures now. So now these were big events when they went down. So they actually had an organ there, and this composer, played the music live for him. Again, I believe all the music has, since disappeared. So I don't know if there's any surviving score left over, but either way, just kind of an interesting footnote there. Later on, kind of jumping ahead to the future here, but when Lon Chaney would leave Universal, talkies came out, and it was around 1930 when this movie's still doing good business. It's still doing the circuit or whatever, but at this point now, talkies are all the thing. And I did not know this until I did my research for this movie, that I guess apparently at this point, a lot of theaters just refused to flat out play silent films. They're like, no, it's all about the talkies. And so some studios would take their films back and take out the title cards and then just overdub the lines, even if it didn't really sync up to the mouth at all. They just would go ahead and speak their lines into it. And they'd usually get the actors to come back. But of course, Lon Chaney was gone from Universal at this point, so he never did get to add sound to his role. But yeah, so I know that's always kind of crazy that this one movie had so many different releases under different whatever, and even then, a lot of the versions that go out, they had an international cut as well as the sound cut, and so these exhibitors would go ahead and kind of cut what they wanted anyway. So there's so many different versions of Phantom of the Opera out right now. I'm not sure what version I have, to be honest with you, that I watched. I have the DVD of this. I'm not sure what version I have, but either way, I feel like I have a pretty complete version of it, though. There's nothing really cut out. There's no continuity offering like that. So this film does have a 7.6 currently on IMDb, and it has a 90% Rotten Tomato score. For me personally, I absolutely love this movie. I think I already told the story when I did Nosferatu. But I'll tell it again for those who didn't listen to the Nosferatu episode, or the 1920 episode, or 22. Getting my dates all mixed up here. Anyways, no, so I bought, I was looking for a copy of Nosferatu, and I was in a Sam Goodies, back when America still had Sam Goodies, and I found this double disc DVD that had Nosferatu and Phantom of the Opera. And honestly, for whatever reason, I just didn't care about Phantom of the Opera at the time. Now, at this point, I'm probably my late teens, early 20s, probably late teens. So I'm probably like 18, 19 at this point. But really getting big into collecting DVDs. So, I'm building my collection up. And I always wanted to see Nosferatu. I've always seen clips of it, never actually saw the movie. So I was really pumped to see that. And Phantom of the Opera, even though I've seen other versions, the Robert Englund version from I believe '88. Plus, it was also much like Nosferatu or Dracula. There's been so many versions of it that I've seen like versions on TV. I remember like Goosebumps did an episode that was kind of like Phantom of the Opera. Are You Afraid of the Dark did a version of Phantom of the Opera, and countless others. So I've seen the things, and it just wasn't ever really my thing at the time. So I would watch Nosferatu, and honestly was just bored to tears. I have grown to appreciate Nosferatu now, but being 18, 19, I've already seen Dracula so many times that I was so disappointed by how closely it followed it. Like, I guess I was expecting something totally different. I don't know what I was expecting, but either way, I wasn't big on Nosferatu. And then just one random day, I was like, let me just throw in Phantom of the Opera. This is one I didn't really want to see, but, fuck it. I never want to be that guy who bought DVDs just to hoard them. Like, I have a friend of mine I worked with that, he just bought DVDs and then he never watched them. I don't know why. He just had them on his shelf. Honestly, he didn't watch any of them. But there'd be a lot of them that you'd still see in the plastic on his shelf, and you're like, what the fuck? I don't know, weird guy. But anyways, I didn't want to be that guy. So I was like, I'm going to sit down and watch this. And I just fell in love with it. I thought it was really good. It's a little slow at parts, but my God, when it picks up, it picks up. And of course, we get the famous unmasking scene, which is just awesome. That's something I kind of glossed over, I guess, whenever I was, kind of building up this movie was, again, Chaney at this point was so famous for doing his own makeup that almost became more of the vehicle, I guess, this thing that people were talking about. Almost like how when Hitchcock would, release a new movie, is almost like they were more interested in his little cameo. Like, where are we going to find, the hitch at, as opposed to, the actual movie itself. And I guess it was almost kind of like that here, where, more people were talking more about what the makeup's going to look like, as opposed to, the actual performances or the, whatever. And yeah, I mean, I think, even today's standards, it lives up. It looks ghoulish. It's, frightening. And then Chaney's performance, my God, this guy just kills it. And in fact, this is my favorite performance that he's done ever of all the films I've seen him in. Anyways, this is the one. I love the ending when the town folks are chasing him through the tunnels and out, on the bridge, and he's cornered. And in a moment of just being batshit crazy, he reaches into his pocket and pulls something out, hand above his head, and people flinch and they back up. What does this madman have? And then he reveals he has nothing, and he just starts laughing maniacally as they descend upon him and kill him. Fucking baller. I mean, seriously, I hope if I'm ever chased down by an angry mob and I realize I'm not getting away, that's the way I'm going to go out right there. Just pull out nothing, laugh it off as they kill me. Ah, oh, love it. So yes, this movie gets the Golden Skull. This is the number one horror film of 1925. And deservingly so. This is truly just an iconic film. So that's it. That's all we got this episode of the Retro Horror Academy. To recap, we inducted Mary Shelley into the Horror Hall of Fame. We gave The Monster the number 2 rank spot, along with the Silver Skull Award, and our number 1 horror film of 1925, and winner of the Golden Skull Award, The Phantom of the Opera. So, from the Retro Horror Academy, my name is Daniel Richardson. Thank you for watching listening. And yeah, you're dismissed.